So, hello everybody. I'm Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. And with me today, I have Chelan. Am I saying it right? I should have
You got it. You're the first person to say it correctly, Luis.
been
Woo!
practicing. Chelan Harkin, who is a mystic poet, and I've been following her for quite a while. After one of my friends shared one of her poems on Facebook, and it just really spoke to me. I've always kind of been a fan of Rumi and Hafez and the mystic poets, and Mary Oliver. I love her too. And but there's just something about Chelan's poems that really kind of speak to me. And as an astrologer, I quite often find that she posts a poem that's very in alignment with the energies at the time, which I find interesting. So I figured I'd invite her onto my podcast to talk about that, and we'd look at her astrology a little bit as well. But welcome, Chelan.
Thanks so much, Luis. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you.
Cool. And before we dive into your astrology, I'd love to just, as brief as you can. I'm sure it's a long journey, but
Yeah.
your journey into becoming a full-time mystic poet. It's
Oh,
not a normal journey that many people follow.
no, sure isn't. Thanks for asking. It's fun to talk about. And it's interesting. You just gave such beautiful honoring words to my work. And when I hear people say things like that, I have a big smile, and part of that is because it's so flattering and wonderful to hear people's response. And another piece is that for so many years, I had a deep I placed lots of value on the work that I was creating because it just sort of pours through me, and it was kind of my one experience of life of feeling like uh, my poetry was an area that I didn't scrutinize, and I didn't have doubt or self-criticism about, but I was still really afraid to share it with others. And I was had a heap of insecurities about how other people would receive it. So it's just so sweet and satisfying, this whole journey of having shared it with the world, and it being um the reception being so completely opposite than I had feared it might be.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, so it just in short, in 2020, I just had a baby, and I was just kind of wanting to, I guess I was I was in a place of feeling somewhat dissatisfied with my life, and not fully content, and knew that creative expression was just a primary piece of my happiness.
Mhm.
So finally, just kind of got up my gumption to publish this book, Susceptible to Light.
Which I have.
Um, Yay! And I had these poems about half of the poems in this book I'd had for about 12 years or something, and had just been too shy to, and I both too shy, and I just hadn't really validated um the that it would be meaningful to share this with the world. So I just kind of rallied and just decided to do it, and needed to move through all kinds of inner obstacles. And then, but every step of that process was met with just such beautiful reception. And incredibly, because this is a self-published book, it's just done fantastically.
Well done.
And I'm
That's
so
really
grateful.
that's
And
really unusual in this day and age.
it's unusual. It's unusual. And you said that a lot of my poetry feels aligned with the energy that you see in your astrology work, and it just kind of felt like there was a desire of the universe that this was the time to get this book out, and it really just felt like it was riding this amazing wave. And that's maybe a little bit longer of the story that I could share, but
Perfect.
It's basically, and so it's been working. So it's been such an incredible joy to be able to switch gears to doing what I most love uh, full time.
Because we're both trained hypnotherapists. You actually worked as a hypnotherapist,
Yes.
right?
And
Yeah.
you too? You're a trained hypnotherapist?
I am trained as a
Oh,
hypnotherapist.
fantastic.
I use it a little bit with some of my astrology clients. I don't
Oh, neat.
really kind of advertise myself as a
Yes.
hypnotherapist, but
Yeah.
I think that helps connect you in with a lot of the energies that come.
Majorly, doesn't it? It's such a potent tool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, where's your other book too? You've got that
Oh,
with
yeah. So
Yes,
there's
just
number
published
one.
your second book.
This is
Yeah,
number two.
Renaissance. The beautiful cover. I just love
Thank you.
that
The cover to purchase doesn't have this funky line on it. This says not for resale. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, the cover, I found an amazing cover designer and she's just knocked it out of the park.
and I can say for anybody listening, how I love to use your books is that
Mhm.
I kind of treat them as guidance, a bit like pulling a tarot card or something. You know,
Right.
I'll kind of open the book at a page and I get what I need to hear. And I think that's, you can't read a poetry book from beginning to end,
No,
can you?
no, it's not really, it's not meant that way. Yeah, each one is like its own little meal for the soul.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody, wants to go and buy one or both of those books, that's one way I would suggest using them as a real dip in. I've got a couple of books that I use that in that way, and yours are two of them.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that, Louise.
So we're going to have a quick look at Chelan's astrology, and she's very generously allowed me to share her chart on the screen because she, like me, kind of thinks it's just like who cares kind of thing. Put it out there. I don't have much issues with privacy either. I kind of feel like I'm protected by this energetic bubble, so
Hmm.
it's like
Yep.
I'm not very fearful about people using these things.
Oh,
So anyway, so Chelan was born on October the 21st, 1988, and in Hood River, Oregon. And you have Sun in Libra, as we know. I don't know. I know Chelan has had a couple of astrology readings before, and one pointed to her being a writer, which I can see. But also, the specific kind of writer I think is in the chart. I use some asteroids and things that you might not have seen before. I don't know what kind of astrologer that you have, but I'm not going to go into major detail because I'm actually interested in looking at what activated you kind of coming out as a poet as well.
thank you. I've been very curious about that too.
So you have a stellium in Libra, you have Sun Vesta. Vesta is kind of the inner flame. She's devotion and your poems are very devotional. So the goddess Vesta was like about the Vestal virgins and keeping the fire burning in the city and all those kind of things. Mercury, the writer, of course, is in Libra as well, and so is Black Moon Lilith. And Lilith in the Bible was, or in old editions or old biblical stories, was the first wife of Adam, who was thrown out of Eden or left in a rage, whichever version you read, and she was the one that was created equally from the dust in the myth. So I
Hmm.
find that interesting because Chelan calls gods she in her poems. So, and Libra, of course, is a very, very creative sign. And all your Libra energy is in the ninth house, which is kind of the house of philosophy and higher truths and such like. And it's opposing the third house, which is communication. So you're definitely kind of aligned with the energy of truth and knowledge and communication and writing, but more specifically creative writing. There's different kinds of writing, as we all know.
Mm.
And Venus rules your Libra stellium, and Venus is in another Mercury ruled sign, Virgo, in your eighth house. And Virgo is connected to your south node, which is kind of it's kind of your past or your soul habit in this lifetime. And it's what you bring in knowing how to do almost instinctively. And in the eighth house, that's a place of deep connection with the psyche and the soul. So it's like you've almost come in instinctively with these words that will come from a very deep place within you. Okay. And while staying with the nodes, that means that your north node or your yearning or longing in this lifetime is in Pisces, and it's almost exactly conjunct your moon. And the nodes, of course, are the moon's nodes. Okay, and and Pisces is the most mystical of signs. It is the signs of the sign of your kind of poetry. So you are really kind of living what your soul longs to do. And in the second house, it's kind of about how your self-worth, your self-esteem, how you earn your money going forward. We often don't feel the pull of our north node until we're a little bit older, so you're kind of in alignment, but there's been some activations that have really kind of pulled you towards where what your soul yearns to move towards. I find it interesting as well, though, that you have a strong 12th house, and that's also that very connected with spirit or the muse kind of energy as well. You've got your ruling planet, Saturn, in there in Sagittarius, the sign of truth and higher knowledge and philosophy. And your poems are very kind of philosophical in nature. Uranus is there that kind of shakes things up a bit. And I see your poems as kind of shaking things up a bit because, many ways, but, a lot of the thing about, referring to God as she, as we're definitely seeing a collective rise in the divine feminine again. So,
Mhm.
and Neptune is in the 12th house. So, but you've got Capricorn rising. So you've also got this wonderfully grounded nature about you. But Capricorn rising when it's young is kind of a bit fearful
Mm.
about what others think, and we Capricorn rising kind of becomes more of the expert and the wise elder as they grow older. So, you're clearly overcoming that kind of energy right now. Neptune is opposite Chiron in Cancer in the seventh house, so you've got a healing energy to your poems.
Mm.
I also, you've got Jupiter in in Gemini. Oh my goodness, in the fifth house of creative self-expression, in a Mercury ruled sign, an air sign, which is usually about writing, communication, and that is just that kind of uh, suggests the volume of your poetry, how it just kind of flows out. I think I heard you say on Buddha at the gas pump that they just kind of write themselves in like 2 minutes sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much it is. Yeah.
That's that Jupiter, I think. And of course, it's in a lovely creative, this is called a biquintile aspect to your sun. So your mind just flows with kind of the words of spirit, I would say, really, in so many ways. You've got Pluto as your most elevated planet, and Pluto in Scorpio, and both of that's associated with the eighth house. I've actually got Scorpio here too. In fact, I think they're both at the same degree, our midheavens. So there's a connection for you. No wonder I wanted to ask you on here. And that kind of indicates that therapist kind of energy as well, or that deep connection with people's psyche and people's soul and being able to dive deep. I have it through my astrology, and we're both trained hypnotherapists, and so so there's your natal chart in a nutshell. Any questions before I move
Oh
on?
my gosh. Well, it's really powerful to hear you read this. And I almost started crying. It's just so, I don't know, it's so validating. Or it's so sacred, really.
Mm.
That it validates that there really is a purpose that we come in with. And that's very mystical. That's very, it gives me shivers. That's so beautiful. And I'm just so feeling such a deep gratitude to be seemingly aligning with this. And
And I believe we always have free will, and we can ignore these pools that are
yeah.
but you've clearly followed the call of your soul. So
Wow. Oh my goodness. It's just, I don't know. I feel really excited
cool.
about that. It feels so good. I don't know. It's just very confirming somehow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing in the transits now, and I'm not going to talk about every detail because there's so much. But interestingly, you're having a Venus return pretty much as we talk, so that's really interesting. But what's really been going on over since you felt the pull to really transform your life into stepping out there as a
Yeah.
poet. I'm going to say was mainly Pluto, plus some other planets activated this. But Pluto has been widely squaring your Sun since, well, all through 2020. It's going to continue to. And Pluto's traveling through your first house, which is who you are. This is who I am. And Pluto is the planet of really death and transformation, but in a positive way at times. There's a lot of fear around Pluto, but having had Pluto travel over every planet in my chart because of the way Pluto is is because of the way my chart is, I can honestly say that Pluto transits can be the most rewarding. They can also be painful in the process. It's often a time where we face inner doubts, where our shadow comes up, the fears come up, and it's whether we're going to deal with them or not. But the sun, is your core. This is kind of your ego, healthy ego in this lifetime. And, sun in Libra is creative. And Pluto is relentless and inexorable. And when Pluto is telling you it's time to change, it's time to change.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so you would have felt that, and you're still feeling it. It's still a process. Clearly by the time he exactly squares your sun, it's probably going to be late in 2022. You've grown comfortable with this transformation, and you'll be growing more and more comfortable with stepping out as who you are becoming. I'm not going to say who you truly are because you've always been who you are, but it's
Yeah.
it's who you're becoming now.
Oh, interesting.
And another big thing that's been happening and is continuing is this nodal axis with all the other, with the moon. Incidentally, your moon's exactly squaring my moon. Uh,
Nice.
I knew we'd have some connections. But this is in mutable signs. It's called Virgo, Pisces are mutable signs. Well, the transiting lunar nodes have been in Sagittarius and Gemini, which are also mutable signs, since May last year. So they've been squaring your nodal axis, and that's always a big, big turning point. Okay.
Mhm.
And so you've had two major kind of transformative um, turning point events happening, and they're still happening. Like the North Node is coming up to your Jupiter pretty soon. In fact, I could probably give you some idea of
Good.
when
What's
that's
coming?
happening.
That's
Like
great.
very soon. Oh. Okay, so it's going to hover about your north node exactly in September. So, but it's really kind of there at the moment. And we talked about your Jupiter already, and this is in this creative self-expression area, and it's taking you to the 11th house, which is groups, organizations. I also find it's about the bigger message in life. It feels like your poetry is going to kind of like reach a lot of people.
Oh, wonderful.
And interviews like this will help, of course, but I think it's the poetry itself. It's just calling to it. Okay, but it's been squaring all this, so that's been pulling you towards what your soul really wants to do in the lifetime.
Wow.
So any more questions on that?
Oh no, I'm just drinking it in. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So why don't
I'm
we take a little break from that for a second, and I'll just look at the chart myself while you read one of your poems so people can get
good. Okay, I'll read the one that you requested, Luis.
it. Okay,
And
cool.
I feel I need to give this poem homage almost every time I do an interview because this is the one that really went viral and connected me with all kinds of things.
It makes me tingle every time.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Okay, so this is called The Worst Thing. The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting out the holy from our bones, insisting God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put in a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from your heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, made it sit up straight and cross its legs, removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe, available to every soul in every breath.
Ow. Now, okay, if anybody's not in kind of feeling that, I'm so sore. I
Oh.
have to know.
Oh.
And it aligns so much with, because I've also done shamanic training and things, it aligns so much with my essence of what God is for me. It's in the leaf, it's in the,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh gosh. Yeah, that one really reached people. That one really did. I'm so grateful to that poem.
it's astounding, to be honest.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh, so I might even have to share it when I share this on the podcast.
Oh, sure.
So, one other thing that's been happening for you in your chart is Neptune. And Neptune is still doing its work because Neptune is an expansive energy. Neptune's been traveling over your moon, your north node. This is the goddess Ceres as well. And Ceres is very much associated with our connection with the life, with cycles of nature and how I see she's also connected with grief and loss
Mm,
and also psychedelic experiences, which I think we can have with or without psychedelic things, because I think we can have it through like shamanic drumming and
yeah,
you know all kinds of mystical experiences.
yeah.
But
Mm,
basically direct experience of God. And
mm,
so Neptune's been traveling over all of this. And
mm,
Neptune is kind of moving away a little bit though at the moment. The planet's retrograde as it goes every year, and you'll be feeling it again. But that's been working you over the last couple of years as well to really pull out that mysticism and energy for you.
mm,
So
mm.
So while we're talking about mysticism and things, I found it very interesting. You said you were raised in the Baha'i faith. Do you mind
Yeah.
talking a little bit about that? And
Oh, I'd be
Baha'i,
happy.
I studied religion in college, so I'm
Oh,
so interested in different religious beliefs.
yes. So, well, I'll just share because I'm guessing many listeners don't maybe haven't even heard about the Baha'i faith because it's a pretty young religion. It began in the late 1800s. So basically, in a nutshell, the the premise of the Baha'i faith is that all religions share the same source, and they all come from a divine source. And the intention is to help humanity really evolve in love and in to so Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, says that this is the day in which we're meant to go through the profound consciousness change to be able to function as a global society and to really realize our inherent oneness and interconnectedness and to live that way. So
And
that's kind of the core.
how that's coming out in your poetry. That's what.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful to be have been raised in the Baha'i faith because it really just did a lot to sort of set my worldview. And there's just a lot about really needing to do the inner work to, the continual inner work to eliminate all forms of prejudice and then just to have to have been raised with just the concept of prayer even and of God and of spirituality. I'm really grateful for, though it also I had a really big I'm weird complex growing up in the Baha'i faith. In this small town that was either all Christian or a lot of my friends growing up didn't have any spirituality in their home. And so I kind of did this lockdown thing with my relationship with my spirituality where I just really privatized it because I didn't have the capacity or the maturity to be able to really be open about it. So honestly, that really has stayed with me to a large degree until the publication of this book. It wasn't because it felt like this piece of my inmost essence and soul coming forth, which pulled everything else out with it. And so really it's for the first time in this last year, I've been just talking publicly about the Baha'i faith. And what's helped me be able to do that also is to be able to talk about, the things I genuinely just deeply love so much about it and my complicated challenges there too, and just to bring it all forward. And it's been so liberating to be able to do that.
I find it quite funny that your moon is square to my moon, and we had all
Oh,
the exactly opposite experience. I was brought up with no spirituality.
oh, how interesting.
I was brought up in very, you know, establishment church,
Yes.
first Methodist. Then we moved to Ireland, and it was Church of Ireland, which is very high Protestant, you know.
Yes.
And I found all that kind of spiritual, mystical kind of experience myself, and that
Wow.
made me feel weird in
Oh my
what I
gosh.
grew up in.
Yes. Oh, it's
Nobody
so
gets it.
wow. It's so rich to hear people's the story, the specific stories of people's spiritual journey.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's
It's
yeah.
such a good conversation. And that's one thing I've just really enjoyed in these interviews is talking about that and hearing and sharing those parts which so rarely are talked about in normal day-to-day
Well,
life.
they are more in my world, but
Yeah, and that's true. Anymore they are in my anymore they're becoming more normal in my world too.
and clearly
Oh,
I live in Salt Lake City, Utah now because of my husband's work,
oh
but
yeah, okay.
I've kind of left, where I grew up because
Yes.
I just feel weird there still. So it
I
doesn't
hear
mean
you.
I dislike the people or anything. It just,
Yes.
you know, I don't feel I fit. And
Yes. I kind of feel I feel that most everyone there's a journey of, even if you grow up with a wonderful spirituality or whatever, still there's such a deep soul journey of needing to make it your own.
yeah, there is.
and and find our own, inner truth, maybe within the umbrella of the truth that we've been given, or cast out parts of that or all of it. Or it's a really it's a very intimate personal journey, I think, to really just, I guess it has to do with just claiming our inner authentic
And
truth.
sometimes if they're kind of very polarized, almost
Yes.
it's sometimes easier to find it if you're not in that environment. So
Yes, agreed. Yep.
that's my I and in fact I lived in the US as a nanny when I was younger, Canada, and I started to find it then, but then I moved back and I found it shrunk, you know? It's
Yes.
but
Our our environment makes a big difference. The parts of us that are nurtured by those around us can really, we want the right flames to be fanned by our
exactly,
environment.
exactly.
Yeah.
So would you say you still practice the Baha'i faith? I mean, I personally don't think we need any really organized religion. But
Yeah, I deeply love the Baha'i faith, and it's such a big part of who I am that it would feel somewhat arrogant in a way to not give it a lot of credit for a lot of the beauty in my life.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's a complicated question. I still feel very connected to it. And I also, the community, there's this beautiful international Baha'i community.
mhm,
And also the community in this area. I live in my hometown right now.
right.
And so I've kind of had a, I guess you would say, hero's journey of coming back to this community, but with now just with my more my full honest self. So I bring that into Baha'i settings, but yeah, it's still in process, I suppose, is the answer there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's kind of interesting. Anyway, thank you for sharing
Yeah.
about the Baha'i
Well,
faith
thanks
because
for asking. It's good to just continue to work it, so for my, my understanding of where I'm at with it to become clearer and clearer.
so what
Yeah.
are your kind of plans now? Just more poetry or more are
Oh,
you gonna do kind of when we're kind of out of this pandemic era?
well,
Do you do
great.
will you go speaking your poetry or
Thanks for asking. So, I have a few clear plans. Although this whole journey has just been this winding road, and I've really been, my experiment has been to, yeah, just follow my intuitive nudges,
uh-huh.
and just this kind of deeper current that has been guiding this whole process. And so far, that's been going quite well. So I would say there are a lot of unknowns. But I'm starting to work on a book, or I'll really start in September when we have more of a rhythm. I have two kids. So when they get, in school and things, I'm going to start working on a book of prose, sort of memoir. Maybe you could call it soul guide. And each chapter will start with poetry, a poem, and it's going to be called Becoming the Full Moon: The Many Phases of Love, Creative Expression, and Wholeness.
Well, if you'd like somebody to do a peer review.
Yes, please. You're the one. You're the one. And I'm so excited about this. So it's going to be just a series of, there's going to be memoir throughout that kind of illustrates each chapter. And then each chapter is just going to be a rich, juicy kind of theme. And I'm really excited because I just love the craft of writing so much. So it'll be satisfying for me to dive in with the poetry. It's these bursts, they come through so quickly. So I'm really looking forward to kind of just more writing and
Yeah,
with prose. Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I told you that you inspired me to write a poetry.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Yay.
I opened it and I can't find it.
Oh,
I've just found it.
oh, good.
It was very short, and I'm actually going to read my poem.
Yes. Great. That is the highest praise when my poem inspires other poems.
So I called it Enchantment, the New Frontier. And in here we go. and
Yeah.
and in it flash, she awakened to love, the new frontier of enchantment. Seeing the magic in her heart, turning away from the clamour of the world, she began to listen to the goddess within. You are stardust, the goddess said. It's time to love that dust. It's time to be enchanted with you. Now, that's just the start, because I know that I've been feeling this major pull myself to creative expression. I've been sketching, I've been writing more and things, but that's big bravery for you there, reading your poem out on your
Isn't it? It really is. It's like it's the flavor of the soul.
yeah.
Good for you for doing that. That's excellent.
But because we have all those connections between our charts, I'm obviously getting some of the same transits you are too. So I'm being pulled.
Woo, hold on for the ride.
So do you want to tell people where they can buy your books? Or do you
Yeah.
have any more questions about your astrology? I'd be happy to.
Oh my goodness. Well, mostly everything you said was so perfectly right on. So I'm just amazed is my only response. I almost don't have anything to say. It was just so completely spot on.
Awesome.
And how amazing that's just it's how amazing is that?
You know, I'm kind of a, I will call myself more of an intuitive kind of
Yeah.
astrologer. Obviously, I've studied it for many, many years, but the planets kind of jump out at me, and I'm very
Oh,
picking out the crucial bits because you can get so bogged down in
I
every
bet.
detail, you know.
I bet. Yeah, it's really an art to read the chart.
Yeah.
How yes. Well, I was excited to hear that my poetry it shows in my chart that it might, be reaching a wider audience because I so long for that. And it's a very pure desire. It feels like just within the poems themselves, they just really long to share themselves with hearts who
Mhm.
they can act upon, and activate. And that there's just that desire within the energy of the poetry. So
So you can find Chelan on Facebook. You have a
yeah.
Facebook public page, Chelan Harkin Poetry, right? But
Yes.
also your private page is public.
Yeah, my private page is very public. I recommend referencing that one. I'm great to follow in terms of my rhythm with posting is quite frequent. On my personal page, Chelan Harkin. But then I often forget to post that to my poetry page. And so you can find me on Chelan Harkin Poetry. You can buy my books from Amazon or from I have this local distributor. It's the sweetest bookstore. It's called Waucoma Bookstore, Waucoma. It's a mom-owned independent bookstore, my local bookstore, and they ship internationally. And I go in and sign all the books,
Mhm.
and I touch all of them with love, and I just say a prayer that they'll carry inspiration and love to the readers. So that's kind of a sweet extra touch if you buy them from there.
I was impatient and ordered.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a-okay in my mind to buy them from Amazon, and however you get them is fine with me.
But who knows? Maybe I'll buy signed copies and do a giveaway or something for my
Oh, that'd be so
unsigned
cute.
books or something.
Oh my goodness.
I think they need to be out in the world, and maybe that means you should read one more before we go.
I would love to. Do you have any requests, Louise?
No, I think you've choose this one.
Okay. Let's see. I before our interview, I did a quick look through of my book and I just dog-eared a whole bunch of poems, and then I thought I would just um randomly open to one of my dog-eared
Cool.
pages. Okay, I'll do this one.
Cool.
Why not? Excuse me. It's called, this is from Let Us Dance. It's called To Applaud Your Radiance. Really, the whole point of healing is that it takes less and less work to be astonished. You stop demanding that the world knocks you sideways and just let the sweetness of simple things climb into your heart. The purpose of healing is that it takes less and less work to feel a deep belonging. The inclusive congregation of stars whose only doctrine is shine, so wants your heart as a member. And the community of hillside daisies considers you an integral part. Really, the whole point of healing is to make an easier time of love, that it stop being singled out as a limited resource, that you may find your soulmate winking out at you through every bit of life, and that you remember each night the moon sets her light in the sky to encourage and applaud your radiance. Woo. Thank you, Louise.
Well, thank you so much for
Oh,
coming on. You know,
what an incredible pleasure.
yeah, and I look forward to, getting to know you better over Facebook. And
Likewise. Likewise. And Louise, do you do individual astrology
I do,
sessions?
I do individual
Wonderful.
consultations, and they go way deep.
Cool.
Also have a membership community called the Venus Enchantment Community because I do a lot of work with the planet Venus because she's right at the top of my chart, and her cycle is one of the most important cycles in my opinion. And of course, she represents love, creativity, balance, harmony, all those things. So
Wow. So we all really have a soul purpose when we come into this life.
we do, yeah, and it can manifest in some different ways.
Yes.
You could have become a priestess or something too. Writings in there too. So
Great. I'm satisfied with that one.
yeah,
Oh gosh. Well, thank you so much. I would love to connect more. This was so fascinating.
cool. And I'll send
Yes.
you the upload when I've uploaded it. So
Wonderful. Oh, well, thanks for getting my day started off so wonderfully.
you're very welcome.
Yeah.
And thanks for your patience with the storm last week. It
Oh,
was,
no problem. I think it is better timing
I did.
happening this week. Yep. Yep. Okay. Thanks so much, Louise.
Bye.
Bye.